The haunting silence of the Forum, what it felt like when Rome fell. The sound of nothing. We often discuss the fall of Rome in dates and battles: 476 AD, the sacking by the Goths, the emperors who failed. But rarely do we stop to consider the human cost, the emotional landscape of decline. This is not a story of how the Roman Empire died, but of what it felt like to be standing there when the cheering stopped. Imagine the Roman Forum at its height. It wasn't silent, it was a roar. The metallic clank of a triumphal procession, the bellowing of a senator on the rostra, the frantic footsteps of a merchant chasing a deadline. A relentless, confident noise that proclaimed, "This is the center of the world. This will last forever." Now, go with me to the 5th century. The barbarians haven't even arrived, but the real enemy is already here. Silence. The sound of less money changing hands. The sound of fewer children playing. The terrifying quiet where the noise of life used to be. The fall of Rome wasn't a sudden crash. It was a slow, heartbreaking realization that the dream was over and the institutions you trusted were hollow. The slow poison of disillusionment. For those of us who have lived long enough, we know that true failure rarely comes in a flash of lightning. It comes as a slow, corrosive poison. In Rome, the first sign was money. The Roman silver coin, the denarius, was gradually debased. The silver was replaced with cheap metal year after year. For the average citizen, this wasn't a policy debate. This was watching your life savings, your family's inheritance, melt away to nothing. You worked, you saved, you paid your taxes, yet the currency that was supposed to anchor your world became utterly worthless. It gave rise to a deep, bitter cynicism. Why sacrifice for a system that sacrifices you? Then came the corruption of duty. In the days of the Republic, serving as a senator was an honor, a public sacrifice. By the end, it was a trap. Civic office meant crushing personal financial responsibility unless you looted the treasury. The good men stopped serving. They watched the powerful feed only themselves, and they withdrew. It's the familiar, disheartening realization that so many of us have faced. The world is being run by men who care only about what they can take from it. This erosion of trust, this death of idealism, was the first fall of Rome. The isolation of the great city. When a modern city loses a corporation, it loses jobs. When late Rome began to fail, the entire infrastructure of civilization failed. The grand aqueducts, marvels of engineering, started to leak and crack because there was no one left to fund the repairs. The population of the city, once 1 million strong, shrank to less than 50,000. Think about that. You are a Roman citizen, perhaps a baker or a lawyer, and your neighborhood slowly empties. Your local marketplace, once a deafening symphony of trade, is quiet. The great stone apartments, the insulae, become hollow shells. This is the ultimate loneliness. You are standing in the most magnificent city the world has ever known, surrounded by monuments to its power, yet you are utterly alone. The imperial grandeur is a taunt, a reminder of a vitality that has fled. You are a ghost in your own home. You no longer worry about laws or politics. You worry about finding firewood in the desolate streets. The day the fire went out. To understand the emotional core of the collapse, we must turn to the ultimate symbol of Roman eternity, the Vestal Virgins. Their sacred duty was to tend the eternal flame in the Temple of Vesta. This fire had burned for over 1,000 years. It was the spiritual heart, the non-negotiable insurance policy of the state. If the fire went out, Rome would fall. In 394 AD, Emperor Theodosius, who was Christian, ordered the Vestal Virgins to disband and the eternal fire to be extinguished. It wasn't a dramatic sacrifice or a heroic last stand. It was a cold, administrative order. Imagine the Vestals on that day, standing over the embers, not with rebellion, but with quiet grief. 1,000 years of continuous, unbroken faith, simply ending. It must have felt like a spiritual punch to the gut for the remaining pagans, a profound loss of the sacred, the moment they realized that even their gods had abandoned them. It was a final, chilling statement. The Roman contract with destiny has been permanently revoked. The ultimate humiliation and final reflection. The ultimate humiliation arrived centuries later, not as a thunderous invasion, but as a silent, pastoral shrug. After the sacking and the slow decay, the Roman Forum was no longer a place of power or tragedy. It became a field. The locals called it the Campo Vaccino, the cow field. The marble floor where senators once decided the fate of the world was now just muddy ground for grazing cattle. The most potent empire in human history became a patch of grass. This, perhaps, is the true lesson for those of us who have accumulated years and perspective. The fall of Rome reminds us of the futility of ambition when divorced from principle. It reminds us that our great institutions, our wealth, our achievements, all the noise and clamor we generate, can become, in time, nothing more than a field where cows graze. But look closer at the ruins. A fragment of a law code survived. A philosophy, Stoicism, was preserved. The foundation of our own language and law endured. The stone falls silent, but the ideas whisper on. The haunting silence of the Forum is not a mournful quiet for the emperors and their wars. It is a contemplative silence, forcing us to ask the final existential question. After all the noise of our own lives has faded, what is the one essential thing, the true non-corruptible legacy that we will leave behind?